Hello. Welcome to another DVD Blu-ray Collection Shelf by Shelf tour. And today we're talking about shelf number 5. Now, I do want to point out something real quick. The reason why you've been seeing a lot of DVDs in my collection is because the primary format that I had when I was a kid was VHS. And I didn't start collecting DVDs until sometime around 2005 or 6, I believe. And I just kind of been doing that ever since. I did not get a Blu-ray player until 2018 in the form of a PS4. And ever since then, I've migrated over to Blu-ray. But there will come a point where a lot of this will be upgraded. But for the time being, I'm pretty satisfied with it at the moment. Alright, so let me share with you what's above it. So you've seen this in the background of my videos, but you probably don't know what all this stuff is, so allow me to give you a little tour. Now, the first thing that you will notice is the main centerpiece. Brian, I know you will love this. This is a Willis the Alligator Princess and the Frog plushie. I got this on eBay for, I think it was like 15 bucks, and this was around the time when Princess and the Frog merchandise was being basically phased out. There was actually a smaller one, but I got this, and it looks incredibly nice on my shelf. I absolutely love this thing. Just kind of show you what it looks like. But yeah, this thing is fantastic. And then next up, we have this guy, which is I think it's the Ymir, I believe it's called, from 20 Million Miles to Earth. This was made by Ray Harryhausen, and this came as part of a set of Ray Harryhausen movies, which we'll get to later. It's on this shelf that it's sitting on right now. And it actually came with, stay there, it actually came with a certificate of authenticity from Ray Harryhausen himself. So that's actually really nice that I got his personal touch, because I've always been a big fan of Ray Harryhausen, and as you can see, yep, it's officially certified that he created it. Number 702 out of 10,000, so that's really great that I was able to have that. I was able to display it in my collection. And then next we have, focus please, thank you, the Batman Adam West show. So you've seen this in my videos. So I showed you that in a update video. This is James Bond Ultimate Edition Volume 3. So this has From Russia with Love, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Live and Let Die, For Your Eyes Only, and GoldenEye. The problem I have with these sets is that although they look nice and everything, they're completely out of order. Totally. That's why my Bond collection is sort of a mess, because there's no rhyme or reason or organization to it whatsoever. It's just really dumb. Not a fan of that at all. And then up next we have the Elvis Hollywood collection. So this has, I put all of these by release order. Kissing Cousins, Girl Happy, Tickle Me, Stay Away Joe, With a Little, Love a Little, and Charo. Which is actually weird that Charo's here, because it's not a musical, it's a straightforward Western. The thing about these Elvis box sets is that I think they're a little bit pricey nowadays, I'm not sure, but next we have one of my favorite films of all time, City Lights, Charlie Chaplin classic, Criterion number 680. If you want to watch, if I could recommend one silent film to you, it'd be this. Because this movie has everything. This movie has romance, it has drama, it has comedy, it has Charlie Chaplin's tramp character, it has a very touching story about a blind girl who mistakes Chaplin for some millionaire, and he vows to help her cure her blindness, and he does everything in his power to try and help her. Wonderful cinematography. Oh, this is just one of my favorite films of all time. And then next we have a soundtrack to Mary Poppins, which I'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then we have this, which is the Flintstones Complete Series. So this has every single season of the Flintstones. I believe there's 6 seasons, if I remember correctly. And it comes in this nice TV box set with the opening of the show. But yeah, it comes in these little, I don't know what you call them, but they're like booklet thingies. And so that's really cool. Although the one downside I have is that for some bizarre reason, the episode, I think it's episode 3, where Fred buys a pool and it turns into, like, it becomes a power struggle between the two of them. I don't know, for some reason, I can never watch that episode because, it's like scratched or something. I don't know. Every time I try to watch it, the same thing happens. But yeah, I've always been a fan of the Flintstones. I honestly prefer the Flintstones over Jetsons. Even though the Jetsons is pretty cool, I'm not the biggest, like, none of the Jetsons, honestly. I think it's fine. We have Mega Python versus Gatoroid. Don't ask me why I have this. Is this sci-fi? Yeah, sci-fi. But whatever. And then we have the IMAX documentary, Fires of Kuwait. Now, I have seen this. I have not opened it yet, but I have seen this before. It's a great documentary about these fires that broke out in Kuwait in the middle of a Gulf War. And these people are trying to stop it because they let it go on for forever and could cause major side effects on the environment. Now you know what's up here. My little box set collectibles, Ymir from 20 Million Miles to Earth, and my Princess and the Frog, Lewis the Alligator plushie. So, with that said, let us get to the shelves. So, first up, we have Made. This was one of, I believe, a couple films that Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn did together. After, I don't know if it was Swingers that came first, or this one, I don't know. But this is sort of like a mob comedy of sorts with, Peter Falk from, the TV series Columbo. Next up, we have, oh, yes. Yes. The Magnificent Seven. This is one of the greatest westerns of all time. I mean, yes, it is technically a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, but this is one of the greats. Oh man, the cast. Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, James Colburn, Charles Bronson, Brad Dexter. Oh man, I'm blanking on it. Robert Vaughn, E.Y. Wallach is the villain. This is just great. One of the greatest westerns of all time. And the music by Elmer Bernstein is one of the greatest film scores in film history. Like, I can so picture it in my head right now. But this is just great. Love that movie. Wait. Oh, here it is, Magnolia. You know, I love Paul Thomas Anderson, but I have not seen this yet. I think it's like one of those interconnecting storyline kind of movies, like Crash and Traffic, you know? Grand Hotel. Tom Cruise, Philip Seymour Hoffman, John C. Reilly, Julianne Moore. Julianne Moore? Yeah, Julianne Moore. It looks good. I just haven't seen it yet. Major League. Oh, I love Major League. The Cleveland Indians baseball team is having some kind of a losing streak, and the woman who is running it, she needs a winning team, and so she calls upon Charlie Sheen and Tom Berenger to help her out. And this is just a really funny movie. This is a really funny movie with funny characters, and all in all, just a really funny baseball movie. I have not seen the sequels yet, so let me know how those are. I believe it's Major League 2 and Back to the Minors, I believe. But yeah, Major League is funny. Malcolm X. Yes, this cover is horrible. This is literally one of the worst covers I've ever seen in my life. It is literally just a giant X. I mean, come on, guys. This is terrible. That aside, this movie is awesome. I saw this with Black History Month with my friend Dennis, and yes, this movie's great. Basically, it's a film about Malcolm X, how, you know, he was kind of reckless as a youth, but he became a Muslim and became a well-respected civil rights leader. This movie, Spike Lee really knew how to make this movie work. He knew how to make the movie work. He knew how to tell a story, and on top of that, it's pretty accurate. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that's very accurate, very historically accurate. So yeah, I really do recommend it. And after this movie, you kind of understood Malcolm X a lot more. You really get a sense of who he was, he fought for, and everything. And I do want to get a Criterion edition of this at some point because my copy's kind of wearing down. Because The Maltese Falcon, oh yes, this is one of the greatest film noirs of all time. This is a movie where Humphrey Bogart is trying to find this mysterious artifact called the Maltese Falcon. And every single person's after it, including Peter Lorre, Sidney Greenstreet, who was a well-known character actor at the time, and Elijah Cook Jr., yeah. Mary Astor's in here, and the thing is, this was Mary Astor's comeback performance, because around this time, she was suffering the side effects of her custody battle that she was going through in the 1930s, which was something that wasn't heard of. Like, she was doing this movie around the time that the custody battle happened. I don't remember what it was. It's well acted, it's well shot, it's well written, and one of the best lines in the movie is actually the very last thing that's said. This is the stuff that dreams are made of. Gets me chills every time. Mamma Mia. The musical was decent. Basically taking the music of ABBA and then setting it to a romantic story involving a daughter who's trying to figure out, like, who her dad is. So that's fine. The problem with the movie is that the movie wants to be a rom-com first and a musical second. So it has all the same rom-com cliches. The way that the songs are just not laid out properly. I liked this movie, don't get me wrong, as sort of an entertainment guilty pleasure, but the problem is, again, it has Meryl Streep and Pierce Brosnan can't sing, although Meryl Streep's voice would get better with Into the Woods, and yeah, guilty pleasure, I suppose, but it's very flawed. I did see the sequel, Here We Go Again. It was okay. Man of Steel, this is the first DCEU movie. I remember very little about this film, other than the fact that Henry Cavill is Superman, and it's sort of a origin story, if you like. It's sort of an origin story on Superman. I think Zod is in here. Oh yeah, Michael Shannon is Zod. Okay, cool. Kevin Costner is the dad who gets sucked up in a tornado. Russell Crowe is Jor-El, and yeah, it's Zack Snyder being Zack Snyder. I mean, you know, it's fine. I you know, it's been a while since I've seen it, but we had one Superman movie. We had Batman v Superman, which was garbage. We had Justice League and Suicide Squad. We had Wonder Woman. And, yeah, but DCEU was a mess. I'm just glad it's over, you know? Man on Fire. This movie is awesome. This movie is a realistic look at kidnappings that was going on in Mexico City at the time. I think it's still happening, but I'm not sure. So this movie has a very realistic feel to it. Denzel Washington trying to rescue this millionaire's daughter, played by Dakota Fanning. And yeah, this movie's just great. This movie's great because it's well done. You know, like it's a well-made film, for sure. And one of Tony Scott's best movies. Man on the Moon. This is a terrible film about Andy Kaufman. I like Andy Kaufman. Like, I mean, I have seen Taxi. It was okay. I mean, Jim Carrey does a great job as Andy Kaufman, but the problem is that the script does not give him much to do. I mean, there's so many things that are inaccurate or fabricated or whatever, but I don't even think they knew really who Andy Kaufman was. I'm just saying. The Manchurian Candidate. Oh, yes. One of the best political thrillers of all time. Frank Sinatra, Janet Leigh, Lawrence Harvey, Angela Lansbury's in here. I don't want to give a plot away, but let's just say there's a lot happening in this one. I just don't want to give the plot away because I don't want to spoil the plot. Check it out. Check that movie out. Don't watch the Denzel Washington one, but watch this one. Manchurian Candidate from 1962? 62, right? 62, yeah, got it right. Man with a Golden Arm. I have not seen this, but I've heard good things. Frank Sinatra plays a heroin addict. I've not seen this one either, but Man Who Knew Too Much. This movie was basically a remake of Alfred Hitchcock's own 1935 film with Peter Lorre, James Stewart, and Doris Day. Of course, it features the famous song Que Sera Sera, which won the Oscar for Best Song, and on top of that, it became a staple for Doris Day. Manchester by the Sea. Oh, yes. This is a film dealing with grief. Casey Affleck, who won the Oscar, plays a man who lost his, I think, dad, or I don't remember, but he's basically forced to take care of his son, played by Lucas Hedges. Whatever happened to him? You don't hear from him anymore. And he has conflicts with his wife, played by Michelle Williams, and this is just a really great film. It's nicely shot, it's well written, it's a really great character study with a great cast, and overall it's just a really great little film. Definitely check that out. Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. I've since moved on to Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. Okay, but in all seriousness, I've never been the biggest nut of this one. I don't know why. I like the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh TV show. I like the fact that Jim Cummings, one of my favorite actors, is voicing Winnie the Pooh and Tigger now, which is awesome. I liked a couple Pooh stuff when I was younger, and I also did see the Tigger movie, Piglet's Big Movie, and Pooh's Half One movie in theaters when I was a kid. But there's always something about the original movie that I've never really quite liked. I don't know what it is. It's probably because the original stories of Winnie the Pooh just didn't resonate with me or something. I don't know. I do want to try it again. Although I really love Paul Winchell as Tigger, though. It does have good animation. It does have a good musical score by the Sherman Brothers and everything. But I don't know. There's just something about the original Pooh movie that I can't... It's a classic in many people's eyes, so I'm not going to argue with that. Where March of the Penguins. Morgan Freeman narrates this Oscar-winning documentary about the life of penguins in the Arctic, trying to survive in the Arctic wilderness. I've always loved March of the Penguins. March of the Penguins has always been one that I loved when I was younger, and this has always been one of my favorite documentaries. And, yeah, I like it. Next we have the Marlon Brando collection. So this has 4 films, but all of them are different genres. So how do you file these movies? Like, where do you file them? Well, what I would do is I would create a separate section called compilations. So I'm not talking about collections that have all horror or all comedy or all musical or all, whatever. If it was me, I would make a separate collection of collections/compilations. So basically collections that have more than one genre. And this is one of them. Now, Marlon Brando is a fantastic actor, but there were times where all these movies came out in the 1960s, and during this time, Marlon Brando's career was not, let's put it this way, it wasn't as great as it was before with On the Waterfront, A Streetcar Named Desire, and Julius Caesar, and whatever. These movies were good, but they just didn't win people over like Brando had wanted. Alright, next up we have The Mark of Zorro. Oh, this is fantastic. I love this movie. Tyrone Power and Basil Rathbone, great adventure film. Some actors dominated specific genres, and Tyrone Power was no exception. Tyrone Power, this is like the best Zorro movie you could watch. Followed that up by The Mask of Zorro. Yes, this was directed by the same guy who brought back James Bond with Casino Royale. Now, this is great because you have Antonio Banderas, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Anthony Hopkins. You have a pretty good story, just like with The Mark of Zorro. And just like The Mark of Zorro, you had real stunts, you had a pretty good plot, you had great chemistry with all the characters, and overall it's just a really fun film to watch. I have not seen Legend of Zorro, which is funny, I should have by now, but maybe one of these days we'll get around to it. Next up is Marnie from 1964, right? 64? Yeah, 64. This is one of Alfred Hitchcock's best movies. Or at least one of his last, great films. Tippi Hedren plays... I don't want to give it away, but basically, Tippi Hedren plays a woman who's essentially mentally disturbed, and Sean Connery is trying to help her. Yeah, if you know anything about Tippi Hedren, you know what happened to her during the making of this film. I'm not going to give it away, but basically, yeah, this is a great film. I've seen this twice. I've seen this a couple of times, and, each time, it plays out like a mystery. You're trying to figure out who this woman is, but you can't actually figure out who she is exactly, and what exactly transpired her to be this way. I don't want to give it away, but it's great. Smoking! Yep, The Mask. I never realized until, years later that this movie was partly inspired by the works of Tex Avery, one of the great cartoonists, one of the great animators of all time. Yeah, I didn't really know that, but I've seen this maybe twice, but I haven't seen it in, 10 years. Yeah, some people put this under superhero, which is funny, because it's not really a superhero film. It doesn't fit the typical superhero tropes, or, he's not really a superhero necessarily, but he is a quirky hero nonetheless. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen that, so. And then up next we have, oh, yes. Yes. This is, without a doubt, one of my favorite films of all time. If there were 10 films I could not live without, it'd be Mary Poppins. Julie Andrews and my idol, my hero, Dick Van Dyke. Oh, what can I say about this? This is one of the greats, one of the greatest of all time. The story is amazing. The song's unforgettable and iconic. The heart and soul and meaning and passion that was put into this film is absolutely spectacular. The idea of Mary Poppins is called in to help these two kids, but really, in actuality, she's actually helping the father, Mr. Banks. And when you find that out, the true meaning of the film really shines through. The animated sequence is one of the best, and not to mention the meaning, the heart, the soul, the passion behind it. The songs, oh my god, Chim Chim Cheree, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Jolly Holiday, Step in Time, Feed the Birds, which is actually said to be Walt Disney's favorite song of all time, Fly a Kite, Spoonful of Sugar. I could go on about this movie, but man, I love this movie. I actually have a blue tie, similar to the one Bert wears in the film. One of my favorites. This is just one of the all-time masterpieces. One of the greatest villains ever made. Yeah, I cannot be without that movie. I've seen it probably like at least 10 times. Maybe more, I lost count, but yeah, one of my favorite films of all time. Next up is Marty. Best Picture winner in 1955 with an Oscar-winning performance by Ernest Borgnine. This is a great movie because it's an unconventional romance. It's an unconventional romance film that really it's basically about a guy who's essentially lonely and then finally finds the one person, Betsy Blair, who she she looks past his flaws, and that's an amazing little film, very heartfelt and true. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Okay, here's a tip. If you're going to adapt a novel based on a well-known author, the least you can do is be faithful to the source material. Like, if you're going to title a movie Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, then at least be faithful to the source material. This movie tried, it certainly tried to be faithful. I'm not saying that it isn't, but the downside is, okay, yeah, I get it, it's... I don't know what to say about this one, but I did enjoy this. I like when Francis Ford Coppola did Dracula more than this, but I think in terms of trying to adapt the source material, you could do worse. Next we have Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World. This is an excellent pirate adventure film set on the high seas. I think... I don't remember what year, but I think this was based on a novel that was pretty popular at the time. Russell Crowe. I'm blanking on who else is in here, but yeah, this is great. This is a great movie. Actually, you know what's funny? My copy of this movie, when I found this, it's a nice 2-disc edition, but it also came with a map. At least I think it's a map, a booklet, and this disc. Which I saw it, and it's basically just a 20-minute behind-the-scenes sneak peek of a movie. But yeah, it's kind of weird that my copy came with that. I don't know why. And then the last for this section, we have The Martian. Now, The Martian... This is directed by Ridley Scott, right? Ridley Scott, right? Yeah, Ridley Scott. A lot of the time, when people make movies about Mars, they tend to fail big time, but this was different. It was nominated for a bunch of Oscars. It has Matt Damon basically being stuck on Mars, and yeah, it's been, you know what, I have not seen this. I need to go check that out. Alright, up next, we have Maverick, which I didn't realize until later, but this was based on a TV show from, I believe, the 60s, I believe. James Garner was the lead in the show, but Mel Gibson is his character in the movie. It's a pretty decent Richard Donner Western comedy. Yeah, not bad. Major Payne. It's just okay. Basically a satire on military recruitment. With Damon Wayans. I just don't have much to say on that one, to be totally honest with you. This is alright. I've seen worse. Next, we have A Monuments Men from 2014. Wait, 2014? Yeah, 2014. Dealing with a group of Allied soldiers who were trying to rescue these paintings that were stolen by the Nazis during World War II. This would have been great if they had just stuck with the history. If they had just stuck with the historical facts, it would have been way better than this. But it was okay. You have a good cast, though. You have Matt Damon, John Goodman, you have George Clooney, Bill Murray, Dean Jordan from The Artist, Hugh Bonneville, Cate Blanchett, Bob Balaban. It was fun. Next we have Marshall. This movie's fantastic. A lot of people probably don't know this one, but basically this movie deals with the true story of Thurgood Marshall, who he... a African-American warrior who is helping a young Jewish warrior. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he, Thurgood Marshall was not allowed to help defend this African American taxi driver who was accused of rape, and he's forced to help the young Jewish lawyer, who I wish I could remember his name right now, to help defend him because he's not allowed to defend himself because of segregation at the time. This is a really great movie, one of Chadwick Boseman's best performances. Next up, we have Mata Hari. Take Greta Garbo and Ramon Navarro and put them in the same movie. What do you have? A pretty decent film about a exotic dancer who I think she was basically a dancer who became a spy during World War I, and then was executed, even though there was enough evidence to prove that she was innocent. I mean, yes, she was a spy, but she wasn't somebody who worked as somebody who practiced espionage. Yeah, this is great. Pretty good movie overall. Next is Matchstick Men. You know what's funny? This is fantastic. Very underrated Ridley Scott movie. Basically, Nicolas Cage plays I believe he's like he has like severe OCD when it comes to germs, and it's been a while since I've seen this movie, but I remember really liking this. I'm kind of surprised if this was a donation because I would have easily loved it. Nicolas Cage, Sam Rockwell. Yeah, it's like part crime, part comedy, part drama. This is great. Love that movie. Next we have The Matrix. You know, when The Matrix came out, there was a lot of people were talking about it, and the thing about The Matrix and the reason why it worked so well was because it had a lot of new ideas. It was pretty creative, at least on that front, and it had a lot of really great ideas, very different ideas. What made it work was you have the right team of people who really made it work. Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Hugo Weaving, great Oscar-winning visual effects. Yeah, this movie's great. You know, like I really liked how it tried to set itself apart from a lot of other sci-fi films, and so it worked. Then you have the sequels, and that's when things started to not go that great. So, okay, Matrix Reloaded. There's some like great scenes in Matrix Reloaded. For example, you have Keanu Reeves fighting a million Hugo Weavings, and then you have the traffic jam scene and all that. So that was good. The problem is some of the writing here was a little not that great. Some of it is, not all of it, but like some of it just didn't click, or some of it doesn't make sense. Like I think the worst scene is where during the traffic jam, seeing Keanu Reeves flies all the way around the world, and then he gets called back to save his comrades, and then he basically goes halfway across the world when all he really should have been doing was he should have like gone back the way he came. Would have saved him but like yeah, there was stuff in it that didn't quite work. And Matrix Revolutions. Okay. Now, let me explain something. This is a better 3 than ever 3s I've seen. But that doesn't make it that good. Alright, so here's the problem with this movie. Alright. So, there's one scene where this guy, he's on this like Titanfall mech thing, and he's like shooting down all these like worm like cyber things. I don't remember what they're called, and he's like shooting and screaming at them for like 20 minutes straight. I just don't even think they knew what they were doing here. I don't think that they knew what they were doing. I don't think they had any kind of understanding of where they were going. Like the last movie actually had some interesting ideas, like who is controlling the Matrix, like what exactly is fueling the whole the machines, like what is the machines' real purpose, like who's controlling it, why exactly, and all that. Where the third one's just, oh, you find out who Neo is, and it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Yeah, wasn't a fan of that. I have not seen Matrix Resurrection just yet, but I heard it was pretty bad. Next we have McClintock. I am talking forever. We did all of this, now we gotta do all of this, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. McClintock, this is an excellent Western comedy, modeled after Taming of a Shrew. This is a really funny movie. There's so many great moments in this movie. There's that scene where they're all in the mud pit. Yeah, this is really funny. There's a lot of funny moments in this movie, and Badook and Maureen O'Hara are a great pair, and I really enjoyed that movie a lot. It was actually like one of the earliest Western comedies, one of the earlier ones. Me, Myself, and Irene. Gentle, mental. Gentle, mental. Oh, this movie's great. I love this movie. Me, Myself, and Irene. This movie's just really funny. I mean, I'm glad that Jim Carrey's like doing like more comedic stuff again, because you know he could be really funny when the script calls for it, and this is one such example. You have Renee Zellweger in here as well, but that's just absolutely great. There's so many funny moments in this movie. Of course, you know, you have other great comedies like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Dumb and Dumber, this one, Liar Liar. Yeah, but it's great. Meet the Spartans. Oh boy. Remember how I said that these like spoof movies were like my guilty pleasures? Not this one. A lot of the references in this one are just more random than usual. At least with like this disaster movie and epic movie, at least the references actually tied in to something disaster or adventure fantasy related. Here they're just like random, you know. They're just random references. Well, because even American Idol, I mean, come on. It just doesn't make much sense in the context of the narrative. It just doesn't work. Melody Time is when Disney was doing like those package films. They couldn't make actual movies during World War II, so they had to just make a whole bunch of Fantasia clones, basically. Well, that's the shortened version of the story. But there's some good sequences in here. There's the Bumble Boogie, which is basically Flight of a Bumblebee. There's Blame It on the Samba. Blame It on Samba? Yeah, Blame It on Samba. There's Pecos Bill, which is awesome. And then you have the best scene in the whole movie, which is The Legend of Johnny Appleseed, which I think Johnny Appleseed was a real person, but I don't really know exactly. But I'm going to tell you this right now. The DVD that I have is not very good because they basically edited it. So, you know the Pecos Bill scene, right? Well, they not only edited the cigarette in his mouth, but they also edited an entire scene from the movie out of it. They took out a very excellent scene, which is Pecos Bill lassoing a tornado. Why would you do that? I am a purist, so that to me just infuriates me on so many levels. The Blu-ray of a movie actually restores the movie back to the way it was, so I need to pick that up as soon as possible. But Melody Time's not bad. Next up, we have the Men in Black saga. These are great. I love these. Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones studying alien activity and fighting alien scum. There's some quirky characters, quirky, memorable characters. You have a pretty good plot of a helm, and it's just great. The banter between the two of them is great, and overall, it's just a lot of fun to watch. The second one wasn't bad. Wasn't bad at all. I kind of actually liked the second one, to be honest. Oh, that's great. They made the pug an official member. That's cool. Yeah, definitely one of the better sequels that I've seen. It's actually not bad. It's actually a pretty decent sequel, all things considered. Was it as good as the first one? No, but overall, I felt like it was a pretty decent little movie. It's a pretty decent sequel. And Men in Black 3, which was the first film I saw in IMAX after they renovated everything and made it like where it wasn't about documentaries and such. Anyway, yeah, you have Josh Brolin as a young Tommy Lee Jones, and yeah, it wasn't a bad movie at all. This is a Target exclusive, actually. I have not seen Men in Black International, but based on what I've heard, it basically killed the entire franchise. Yeah. So you have 4 movies, an animated series, and Men in Black International, killed it. Great. Men of Honor, this is a great movie, very underrated, about Carl Bashir, who wanted to be a Navy frogman, but was subject to racism and prejudice every step of the way, led by Robert De Niro. And it's just all the things that he had to go through in order to become a Navy frogman. Tough in places, but it's a really underrated movie. I'm honestly surprised people don't talk about that one more. The Messengers. Okay. The first time I saw it was I was 14. This was the first time that I saw like a horror movie that was very intense. This was the first one that I saw. And I didn't, like, it's been so long since I've seen this. I hadn't seen this since 2008. That was like the last time I saw it. And yeah, this movie is, I don't really remember what it was about, but I remember it very well. Mean Streets, one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies. Martin Scorsese wrote this movie based on, in a lot of the dialogue in the movie was based off of what he heard on the streets of New York growing up. And of course, this movie would feature some Scorsese regulars, including Robert De Niro and Harvey Keitel. Yeah, this movie's great. It's a classic. I believe this movie did get a release on Criterion, so I'll probably pick that up. Maybe. Metropolis, this is the original classic, 1927, directed by Fritz Lang. I've seen like bits and pieces of it, but I haven't seen it all the way through yet. But basically, this movie takes place in the year 2027, so 100 years after, so basically set 100 years in the future, which is now going to be in a couple years, actually. And it's set in a society where there's the high class and the lower class, but the high class live in the city above the streets, and the lower class, they work in the mines and the machines down below. This is one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made. Easily one of the greatest. Alright, so now we move on to this. This is the Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland film collection. So this has basically the musicals they did together, not the Andy Hardy movies. Those were different. So anyway, you have Babes in Arms, Strike Up a Band, Babes on Broadway, and Girl Crazy. And these movies were pretty popular the time that they were made. And this collection has a bonus DVD in here, like a bonus documentary, lobby cards, and a booklet. I found this at a store for like $30. Although I haven't seen any one of these. I do know Babes in Arms because I did a video, an animated crossover one time back when I used to do that, of one of the numbers from that film. So I know that movie pretty decently, but I haven't actually sat down and watched these like all the way through, you know. I do want to give it a whirl one of these days, but I'm not sure how much it goes for nowadays. I think it's out of print, but if it's really rare, then I'm glad to have it in my collection, because these are pretty good movies, at least from the bits that I've seen. Mission Impossible 3, I've seen all of Mission Impossibles. The first 2 are meh, but after, you know, once the third one came around, it was like, yeah, the third film is great, because you have because you have Phyllis Seymour Hoffman as the villain. You have a pretty good plot. You have great direction by J.J. Abrams, and overall, it's just a pretty entertaining movie. Now, if you want to know what I think of the other movies, well, Ghost Protocol was great. Rogue Nation was even better. Fallout was, it was okay. I thought Fallout was just okay. And Dead Reckoning Part 1 was fine. It was just fine. I think they're running out of steam. You could just tell. You could just tell when a franchise is like running out of steam because their plots are not as good as what came before. It's not really the actors that are the issue. It's more just the narrative structure. Michael Clayton, I haven't seen this in a long time, but I remember this movie. You have George Clooney, an Oscar-winning performance by Tilda Swinton, an Oscar-nominated performance by Tom Wilkinson. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen this. It's been a while. I don't really remember it all that well. Michael Jackson's This Is It. So this is when Michael Jackson was preparing his comeback tour at the O2 Arena in London. Of course, sadly, he never got a chance to perform these shows. But here's what could have been. And it's a really great documentary. I remember when this was first announced. I remember they announced it as like a 2-week screening, but then it was extended to the standard 6 weeks to a month and a half. I remember because the demand for it was so huge. Man, I remember this. This was when I started to really get into Michael Jackson and kind of I started to figure out who he is, and then I realized what a big impact it was, and why his death was such a huge loss. But Mighty Ducks was good. It was fine. I think the only thing about it that was not good was the predictability of the script, but otherwise, it wasn't bad. I already talked about this in my Disney update. I'm trying to find more of these Disney Movie Club releases, but they're not that easy to find. Here's one of my favorite movies of all time, Midnight Cowboy. Best Picture winner in 1969, the only X-rated film to do so. This is a film that it's about Jon Voight. He's like a drifter, and he wants to be like a true cowboy, and he goes to New York, and he finds a loner played by Dustin Hoffman, and because of these two backgrounds, you know, one who wants to serve women, and the other who doesn't really know where he's going in life because he's a hustler. These two polar opposite personalities, they meet, and they end up having a really close friendship with one another. This is a fantastic film, very inspiring for me. One of my favorite films of all time. And another movie I can't live without, Midnight Cowboy. And I think Criterion did put it out, so I will pick it up at some point. Midnight in Paris. I'm sorry, I'm just not the biggest fan of this one. It's okay. It's not great. Great cast, though, but I just never found this premise all that engaging. If anything, I found it confused. Miracles from Heaven. Now, this I liked way better than Heaven is for Real. Mostly because it actually has a much better narrative structure. And also, I just like the story a lot better. Because it's a true story, I liked it a lot better. Yeah, I really like this one.